As I said in the previous part, we could be done here with our chat, but to be fair, no one would use it as it is. So let's do some quick improvements on it. Our mouse cursor is visible when the chat is opened, but I want to use only my keyboard to write and send messages. For that, I will first delete Set Show Mouse Cursor on Show Chat. Then, if we don't want to use our mouse to click on the input field, we need to focus on it with the keyboard to be able to start typing immediately after opening the chat. Go to your chat blueprint and add a new event called Set Focus on Chat. It will ask for a Boolean focus, which will decide if you want to use the chat and type messages or hide it and play the game. We will call this event on Show Chat with focus ticked. But it doesn't seem to work, and that's because of a small bug which for some reason doesn't let you focus on the chat right after showing it up. We'll add a short delay of 0.1 seconds to fix this issue, but I'm still not exactly sure why it happens. Let's also make the chat window invisible and show up when pressing enter. To do that, just call Set Visibility on Event Construct, set it to hidden, and when calling Set Focus on Chat, we want to make it appear again. Now I can start typing as soon as the chat window shows up, after pressing enter. But I also want to close the chat at some point. I decided to do that after sending an empty message, and a bit later I will also make it disappear by clicking away from it. First, let's make the chat window go to read-only mode when it's out of focus. By that, I mean creating a new binding for the chat window's brush color. Here we'll return the normal black and opaque look of the window when in focus, or a transparent one when focus is lost. We will try to use the returned boolean from the has keyboard focus function to switch between those two looks. Here's a small problem. When you open the chat, you can see it change from read-only to focused mode, which doesn't look good, and that's because we set focus to keyboard after 0.1 seconds. For that reason, we should create a new boolean variable isFocused, which will be set immediately after opening or closing chat with the Set Focus on Chat event. Then we'll use the new boolean in the window color bind function instead of has keyboard focus. Then, as I said, on sending an empty message, we must close the chat window. For that, we should cast to our player controller where we created the show chat event. So now we also have to change it a bit to close the chat, or actually set it to read-only mode. A boolean input called focused will decide that. So if it's focused, we should show the chat, otherwise we should focus to the game and set the chat window to read-only mode. A bit of optimization can be done here by calling Set Focus on Chat event first, because it will happen no matter what focus is set to, and then call the rest. Pressing enter doesn't do anything now, because we need to set the new boolean input focused to true when calling show chat with enter. Sending an empty message now also sets the window to read-only mode, but if we still send something, it won't focus on the text input field again. What we need to do is just call set keyboard focus after committing with enter. Let's not forget that 0.1 second delay here as well. Future me here, I just realized that there's an option under text input field settings you can find by typing focus, and it's called clear keyboard focus on commit. Unchecking that will keep focusing on the input field and you will be able to continue typing. Speaking of that text input field, it's still visible when in read-only mode, so let's fix that next. Make a new binding for visibility of the text input field, and based on that isFocused boolean variable we made a little while ago, return visible on focused or hidden when out of focus. That seems to be taken care of for now. Let's try sending more messages. As you can see, the chat doesn't scroll to the latest message after receiving one. There's a very simple function for that, scroll to end, which needs to be called after sending a message and receiving one. When you receive a message and your chat isn't opened, it should show up in read-only mode, displaying the latest message. To make it do that, let's call setFocusOnChat after receiving a message with focused parameter turned off. But then we must also move setVisibility node to the front to fire every time, otherwise we won't see it on read-only mode. Seems to be working, but the problem here is that if someone receives a message while typing one, his chat would go to read-only mode, which should not happen. What we need to do is check when receiving a message if the chat is not focused and only then turn off to read-only mode. For clarity, let's make the owner's message white and all others yellow. To do that, open the chat message widget blueprint and add a color binding for the text component. Because we have the sender's name available in a string variable, we can simply check if that matches ours. In that case, return white, otherwise return yellow text. Also, messages that are too long don't wrap to new lines, so to fix that, go to the chat message widget blueprint and for the text component, check auto wrap text. If no one's sending messages, we should hide the chat window after a while. To do that, we'll set its visibility after 10 seconds of retriggerable delay and only if the window is then still out of focus. Last but very important feature is to be able to click away from the chat window and continue playing the game. To capture that, there's an event called onRemoveFromFocusPath, which fires when we click away from widgets. And when it does, we should call showChat from the player controller to turn off the chat and focus on the game. And that was it for this chat tutorial. I really hope you liked it, and if you have any more questions, post them on my Discord server. Link to it is in the description. Thanks for watching and see you next time.